Welcome back to the Missing Maura Murray podcast. Lance, tonight we have a different kind of episode for our audience. What do you say?
Tim, yeah, we do. We talked to the Generation Y guys. Really good conversation, really good guys. I really like this. When we were listening to it back, I think I had told you that I liked how the back and forth went. And it was a really good conversation. And with this case, it's pretty rare to find people who want to talk about this and have a really good conversation instead of like pushing theories on each other and pushing their own opinions. So I really like that. This whole podcast community is kind of growing on me.
Great. Yeah, they're really good guys, Aaron and Justin over at the Generation Y podcast, and that is their URL to check out their website, thegenerationypodcast.com. They're on iTunes, Stitcher, all that stuff. They do a great show. It's a true crime show. They cover a different case every week, although I know or every episode, I should say. But I do know they are doing a longer form case at some point coming up in the next few months. I am a big fan of the Generation Y podcast. I've been listening since they did their episode on Maura Murray, which is like 2 years ago now. And I think I've listened to every single episode, so I kind of geek out a little bit at the end of the conversation. And Lance, I know we had a little bit of technical difficulties during the recording of this conversation. So you're actually really not a part of the last, 10 minutes or something of the conversation.
Although I feel like my best input was during the last 10 minutes of the conversation. No, we did have some issues over here in eastern Massachusetts with a random lightning shower. It was really wreaking havoc on the internet connection that I had. So I got to see you guys talk and geek out with each other via Skype in kind of pixelated, frozen, staggered images for about 20-25 minutes. So that was cool. But I feel like I really contributed strongly before that happened.
Yeah, I feel like you did. Yeah, it is funny to note that this conversation, with these guys happened during a lightning storm. I just think that's kind of cool.
A lightning storm when it should have been, a snowstorm accumulating 5, 6, 7 inches. But no, we got a lightning storm. It was probably about 60 to 65 degrees too. We're talking like the end of February.
Yeah, and actually my power went out in my residence, and that's the only time I've seen it happen. But luckily, Aaron and Justin over at the Generation Y, they are much more technical than we are, and they saved the audio. And I still don't even know how they did it, but I don't have to ask questions about it.
Oh, they did it because they're out of the circumference of this nylon sock.
So the conversation is coming up, and it is kind of a long conversation, and don't expect it all to be about Maura Murray, but I would say the first half of it is, and I think the conversation is about an hour and 20 minutes. So, the last 20 minutes or so, we go off and talk about other cases and stuff like that. So if you're here strictly for Maura Murray, that stuff probably isn't the most interesting half hour of your time. So also, we want to mention that we're about to release a sneak peek of our documentary. And I hesitate to use the word trailer because I feel like it's not quite a trailer. Trailers are made to appeal to absolutely everybody who's never heard of the story. Well, that's really not what this is. This is sort of a sneak peek for the podcast audience, because some of what's in there is probably, if you're not listening to the podcast, you're probably, not going to get it 100%.
That's a good point, because when you watch it, having no knowledge of the case, you'd probably interpret it as a sizzle reel or whatever you call it, as a way to raise money or for the documentary. And we've been getting quite a few emails and just requests or questions as to the status of the documentary. So this is kind of a way to tell people out there who listen to the podcast and are involved in the case that the documentary is still moving forward, and pretty much every day we're trying to get something documented. So we put this together, and the more we watched it, the more we realized this is almost like a reassurance.
So that is about to come out in the next couple weeks. Very excited to hear what you guys think about that. So we'd appreciate you sharing it and talking about it. And speaking of other podcasts, we wanted to invite you to check out the Nighttime Podcast at nighttimepodcast.com. Lance and I did an episode with Jordan about this podcast that you're listening to now and the disappearance of Maura Murray. And listeners said it was sort of like a bonus episode of Missing Maura Murray for listeners of this show. So check that out on iTunes or wherever you listen to podcasts. It's a pretty good show he does over there. And also check out Chris Peake's article on thekernel.com, which is also about this podcast and includes some of the people who are involved in investigating it. That link is in the show notes. And in fact, all these links are in the show notes.
And as some of you know, we did the live Spreecast show, despite a couple of technical difficulties and what looked to be like the light of heaven shining behind my head. I think we got through it. I think it was pretty productive. We wanted to thank everybody who participated in that. There was a lot of good, almost to the point where we couldn't keep up with it. There was a lot of good comments going on the side of that, and it was really tough to keep up with it. We did, for the most part, read everything. We did record it, so if you if you had something to say, know that it was read, and we tried to get to it as soon as possible. And I'm pretty sure we'll do another one in the next few months, because those are I feel like those are really productive, and it's a good way to just kind of like center everything and talk amongst like-minded individuals. And speaking of like-minded individuals, Tim and I were just talking about the fact that we don't really get a chance very often to thank the people who email us, and we get emails all the time. Took a little while to get used to just this crazy influx of emails that come into into our email accounts. Just wanted to thank everybody who emails. We do read every one of them. We try to get back to everybody, but sometimes we just like lose time during the day.
Yeah, we both work jobs, and it takes a lot of time, and so we just want to say thank you for everything. There's a lot of intelligent comments, and if we don't respond to you, it doesn't mean we didn't listen, or it doesn't mean we didn't consider what you said, or it doesn't mean what you said isn't rattling in our heads somewhere. So we really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And before we roll the Generation Y audio, we do want to invite everyone to call the hotline. The number is 872-25-MAURA. 872-25-MAURA. That works out to 872-256-2872. And that number is also in the show notes. But Lance and I were talking about dreams, because we had gotten some emails about dreams that they had had about Maura Murray. And I know Lance has had some, and I sort of have, but not specifically about Maura. So we just think it could be an interesting subject for the documentary and for the podcast. And if you have left us a message in the past, I know we haven't played any of those yet, but there are a lot that we got, and we are still planning on using them. So we definitely will get to them at some point. But with this one, if you've had dreams about Maura, or dreams involving Maura or this case, that's what we want to hear about for this. So please call that number, and if you can film yourself, that would be even better, and email it to us. We could potentially use it in the documentary.
Yeah, and it's not so much like on a supernatural level, but we got a couple of emails, and we've received a couple of voicemails about dreams that they've had. And like you said, I have had a couple of dreams, and I'm not going to get into it, but it's refreshing. When we got those emails, it was refreshing. It wasn't like bad dreams people had about her. It was just refreshing to hear something different about this case. And then we kind of came together and thought that it would be cool to put that out there. If you've had a dream about her, if you've had a dream about the case, give us a call, give that number a call, and we'd love to read it. And at some point we're going to use it in the show or in the documentary.
I think it just is further affirmation of really the thesis of this documentary and podcast.
Yeah, how it takes over.
It takes over, and it gets people obsessed, and it gets into your dreams. I mean, that's kind of crazy. There's something about this case that gets into people's dreams. So instead of denying it, let's talk about it.
Sure. Good way to put that. Yeah. Instead of waking up and thinking, oh my God, I just had a dream about this. Like, it's crazy. Yeah. I'm following it too much. Write it down, put it into some concise notes, and send it our way. It's healthy. It's healthy to talk about things like that.
Yeah, and like you said, it's good. It actually made me feel better to know that other people out there are having experiences like this too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so With all that said, we are now going to roll the interview with the Generation Y podcasts, Aaron and Justin. Good guys, fun conversation. Hope you enjoy it.
Since we recorded our Maura Murray episode to now listening to your guys's, episode where you guys go down so many rabbit holes and uncover so many things, I've learned so much more about the case that I didn't know. And actually, my opinion hasn't changed that much about it, but you guys have reinforced it to the point where I didn't know that she had so many issues with like getting kicked out of West Point, so many issues with just college, credit card fraud, other things like that. And then, I did know about her wrecking the two cars, her dad's car and then her car, more than likely drunk driving incidents, the hit and run. I didn't know about that. It's not substantiated, but it's just one more thing. And to me, what I see is kind of a downward spiral there.
Yeah.
And, everyone has their own personal experiences in life. Everyone, whatever we experience, we use that to filter what we see. And in my life, my family's jacked up. My friends are jacked up, and they've all hit rock bottom way worse than Maura ever did. But when you are in that phase of denial, spiraling out of control, got issues, then you're in damage control or survival mode, you just start making really bad decisions. And I think that day when she wrecked her car, I think she fled the scene and was in a fight or flight or survival mode. And she made some really bad decisions that day that more than likely led to her demise. And a lot of people can make bad decisions all their life and not have the same ramifications. But I think with her, I think she actually hitchhiked or something and just got in the wrong car and something bad from there. So that's what I've kind of come to the conclusion of after listening to your guys' show over all this time.
It's funny because that's kind of what's going on with us right now is, if you in the beginning episodes, you'll hear that I say, the odds of someone, some opportunistic killer finding her at that particular moment where she crashes her car is like astronomical. And then the deeper we dug into this, the more it was like, okay. And then if you ever spend any time up there and you talk to the people up there, you can totally see how somebody could drive by and see the opportunity.
Yeah. And I totally agree with you. Like it's, what are the chances of a serial killer or somebody looking to do harm? But at the same time, when you're in that kind of fight or flight mode, you're not making sound decisions. She jumps in the car with anybody. Now, maybe that person didn't intend to do harm to her, but then they get into an altercation. Something else happens, and there's so many things. And I know, Aaron, you kind of think that she might have wandered off.
Oh, I don't think she wandered off. I think she took off.
Yeah.
See, for me, I can only base it on what I know, and all of her behavior is of someone that's looking for a way out. So she's like stacking the boxes and leaving that note on there. To me, you can disagree, I don't know, but it seemed to me as if she was letting go of that her life. And she was calling around to different places. And I think maybe she decided that she just needed to go away. Like some people would say clear her mind, but I think as things got worse, she had that wreck there at the end. I think things just got so overwhelming to her, she just decided to take off. If you recall, she was offered help and she refused it. I don't know if that's the kind of person that's going to accept a ride.
To be fair, though, she was offered help by a severely obese, very scary looking man in a school bus. And he's even said that. I'm not even making, it's funny, but he's even said that there's a news article that we mentioned in the next podcast where it came out, I think it was like 4 days after the disappearance. And he says, I can see why. He goes, I'm over 350 pounds. I'm a scary looking guy. She, you know, if she were to jump in a car, it would have been with somebody more clean cut.
Yeah, but he also could have just said, hold on, I'll go make a call. She didn't want anybody to come.
Yeah, she didn't want the police there.
She didn't want any help.
He did say that. He did tell her that. He in this article, he told the reporter, okay, well, I'll go to my house. After he said, why don't you come to my house and get warm? He said, okay, well, I'll go to my house and I'll call police and fire.
Yeah.
Or
and she
police and
disappeared.
EMS.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, my thinking is she took off. It's that simple. And
but
there are people that run away, and sometimes you never find the remains.
I guess my only problem with that is the search and stuff happened pretty quick.
Yeah, but they're basing their search on assumptions. And you always hear people say, "Oh, well, she wouldn't do this." Really? Do you really know what she would do? If she didn't want any help, let's just go down that rabbit hole. If she doesn't want any help, why is she going to go where the lights are, where the cars are?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we know that she didn't run off into the woods right there. She would have had to have run down these street, some street, or gotten
a dirt road,
a car. Yeah, there was a road. Yep. And we've all said, being there, that, you know, if we were in that predicament and there's wine spilt in the car and we're probably going to get a DUI that we can't get, then we probably all would have ran down that road, Bradley Hill Road, I believe, or is it Old Peters
Old
Road?
Peters.
I think it's Old Peters.
Old Peters.
Old Peters.
Yep.
But I will
she's
say,
a fit girl. She could run quite a distance.
She was an avid hiker too. I mean,
yep. Yeah, she could have ran out of the search radius potentially. They searched a radius of 5 miles a couple days later, I think 2-3 days later.
Yeah, but days later, yeah.
I was involved in a search too, and he was very close to where they were starting the search from in the beginning. And they spent days, many days looking for this guy, and he ended up in a porta potty across the road.
Wow.
He died in the porta potty from.
He had a heart problem,
and it took him days.
and he was a fit runner.
Wow. The only thing I will say about that old article that we were just talking about Butch is that he went on to say, "Oh, I wish I tried harder to convince her to come with me to my house and wait with me." And to me, that tells me that he sort of was like, let it go at some point. He wasn't pushing it, but it seemed like he could have pushed harder and maybe got her to go. Is what it kind of sounds like from him.
Or scared her more.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
But I mean, I've seen people in distress on the side of the road, and I didn't even stop, you know, because I'm just like, I don't want to get involved with this. And then if I do say, hey, do you need help? And they're like, no, I usually take that first no as my hint to move on, and I don't try very hard. Now, in this case, this is, as you say, it's a huge situation where all of a sudden when the person disappears, all these things you look at, whereas normally you wouldn't look at them. And this guy now knows that she's missing. So yeah, of course he should have or wanted to try harder after that. But at the time, you know, if you don't know what, you know, this person's on the side of the road with a flat tire. Hey, do you need help? No. Okay, I'm moving on. You might not ever figure out that person disappeared moments after your interaction. So I see his opinion and his perception on that.
And what about the broken windshield?
I don't know. It's a really good point. Butch said she was not bleeding or anything, and the report said that it was probably her head, that it was broken from the inside.
Yeah.
Her airbags went off. A lot of debate on whether the accident occurred at that spot, and I kind of don't think it did, based on the way that the car was facing and everything. It really doesn't seem possible to me at all, and accident recreationists have stated that as much.
Did you know that John Bonet, they didn't know she had a head injury for quite a while?
No.
Yeah. And that's the blow that was really going to kill her. And they didn't know. So I think it's possible she could have hit the top of her head and no one would have really noticed that.
And like you said, she could have had an accident somewhere else, hit her head, and then driven her car with the airbags deployed and just finally said, this isn't working, and pulled over.
What would be the significance in her hitting her head? How would that affect? I guess what I'm trying to say is, would she be like delirious?
You think she's making rash decisions now. She hits her head. Who knows what happens? People who hit their head and have head injuries can make very, very strange decisions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know if that's, I just look at it as they might not have seen it. Just because you cracked a windshield doesn't mean you will have anything remarkable on your forehead or face. It could have hit the top of her head or somewhere and been a little bit more obscured, I guess.
Yeah, I think it would have had to have been probably in her hairline if it was her head that cracked it. Yeah.
Right, up or beyond that.
And if these people are having very quick interactions with her, they might not notice a goose egg, you know.
Which would mean that the car would have to have lurched down for her to be brought up to hit that part of her head.
Or not wearing a seatbelt.
I just have a hard time with like an airbag going off and her not really, I mean...
You're saying that would prevent her from hitting the windshield. But what if she had more than one wreck? That's something people have been talking about for a while.
So, yeah.
What if she had multiple crashes?
Yeah.
So say 2. She already deployed the airbag. That won't work again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very possible. So much mystery about that.
Yeah. There'll always be mystery, I think, until there's a break. Until they would have to find some clothing or her bones.
Well, and the whole theory about her like taking on a new identity and
very romantic, isn't it?
Well, and also I don't want to sound disparaging, but she'd made a lot of mistakes coming up to this point. I would just assume that okay, yeah, anyone can go and take on a new identity and do that, but she's had a lot of missteps up until this point. So now she's not had a single mistake. She's not wrecked a single car or done anything that would show her identity or any, I just don't think she was competent enough to pull something like that off after the fact.
It would have been like, it would have had to have been like meticulously planned, and all of those missteps leading up to it, you might think that it was just something to cover up, like, and then we're talking like kind of, almost criminal mastermind at that point. So the 2 weeks before I plan on going missing, I'm going to make it look like my life's falling apart. I'm going to crash a couple cars intentionally, and then I'm really going to put the plan into effect. And the people who are helping me, because there's no way she did that alone. She didn't run to Canada, and the people that are helping me are going to be in on this, and no one's going to say anything, and I'm going to go off the grid. It's like,
all of a sudden it's funny because again, it's astronomical odds to be abducted and killed, but I would think that is the more far-fetched theory in my mind, just because she seemed like she wasn't. She's in college. She's an intelligent girl, but she's street smarts, book smarts, and then common sense. I don't
and stability.
Yeah,
that can throw things off if you're not stable.
Because it kind of was determined that she had low self-esteem, possibly depression, other issues. So, yeah.
But what 22-year-old young woman in college? I don't know. Like you can make it into anything. You can say. I mean, I don't even remember being from like 20 to 37.
I guess that's my point. Is we associate high-risk lifestyles with gang members and prostitutes, but I'm sorry, every 21-year-old kid is living a high-risk lifestyle and making risky bad decisions. So
drinking with driving with an open container, that definitely happens a lot at that age. I know a state near us, Connecticut, there's actually no open container law. If you're not drinking the beer, there can be an open container in the car.
Wow. It's got to be far. It's got to be like in the furthest spot from the driver.
Oh, I guess. I don't know. In the back seat, I guess. Okay.
Yeah, in like a bag or something.
It tells you what kind of politicians they have, I think.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, yeah, right.
But some people have criticized you for certain rabbit holes you've gone down, but to be fair, we don't have definitive answers. We don't even have really definitive clues. So as long as you go down every rabbit hole, it gives people a chance to consider those and maybe put them together in ways you haven't thought of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a good
point.
point.
It's worth
exactly
exploring.
What we're trying to do.
Yeah, and we get a lot of emails, a lot of really great emails, stuff that opens our eyes. The audience is really helpful and very smart and thoughtful. And really, it's a very small percentage of the audience, I think, that criticizes us for, or, writes us mean emails or something like that. But, we have gotten a good amount of that, especially earlier on in the show. For various different topics, like the psychic episode in particular got us a ton of criticism, and I guess
who was
it's
that?
just going to happen.
And who was that Twitter guy that was kind of trolling you, and then you actually ended up?
Oh, here we go.
And then you actually brought him on. I mean, you guys were nice enough to give him a voice.
He was a very cool guy, and he had this whole thing about how this case has been saturated by the people who just assault the blogs. They just assault the forums, and it turns into the cesspool. And he said that the podcast, he's basically saw a new audience that came along with the podcast that were insightful and thoughtful. Nice. And he had this whole concept about it, the whole egregore concept, and that's what really appealed to me about it. And that's kind of what I was like thinking, it'd be cool to give the audience that, and so you were part of a group that is new, and it's got a lot of good energy. And then he went off the fucking rails on us.
They always do.
And who's fielding these emails that you guys get?
It's both of us.
We both are.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I have one thing I have to say, though. And
sure.
So before we did our episode, which was so long ago, I don't even know if it counts, but I looked up all of the information that Renner had put out. And he said something on your show, and correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't he say that she was a sociopath?
Yeah, and we had a whole episode about that.
I almost fell out of my chair.
What's great is we had an episode where he says that, and then a couple episodes later we have a professor, of
I heard that one too.
Psychology. Was he?
Yeah,
I liked that one a lot.
Cool.
Well, he talked about us.
He
in the
basically
beginning.
says like,
yes.
Oh yeah.
He listens to you guys. Yep.
Besides that, I like the content of it.
Oh yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
He is. Yeah.
But then he goes through the points of what makes a sociopath, and so it's just funny. We got railed on that with people saying Renner has no right. How dare you put him on and say that, give his medical opinion and all this, and he's not a doctor. And then we have this. So we were just.
But Renner was
we should probably get
the top researcher on it, so you had to talk to him and have him.
He had to be on.
Yeah.
Dude, great point.
Yeah.
We had to convince. Yeah, great point. We're working with people who are close to the case. We have to tell them we're not associated with Renner. It's just he's the only person out there that is articulate with the case.
Yeah.
When you're just starting looking into the case, he's accessible. You can email him; he'll email you back, and he's got so much info. It's like, why? How can you not talk to this guy?
So he said sociopath, but he said about 50 other things that were spot on.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think we believe at all that she's a sociopath. But if you do choose to believe that Maura ran away and is living a life in some different country or somewhere else, and her family knows about it, as me and Lance talked about on the next podcast that's going to come out, you must believe that they're a whole family of sociopaths. Yeah. And
right.
That's completely ludicrous to both of us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I can't believe that she would be apart from her dad like that. They were buddies.
Mm-hmm.
They were so close.
Before I had a kid, I thought it was weird that he called his kid his buddy, and I call my kid my buddy all the time.
Yeah,
now.
Of course.
And it's not because of that, but I just do.
I call my cat my buddy.
Well, if you ever have a kid, you'll call them your buddy too.
I call my dogs little shits. That's just me.
I actually call my son B most of the time, which is short for buddy. I go, "Yo, B, what's up?"
Nice.
So
I think I got that from Adult Swim. It just infected my brain.
Chappelle's Show, I feel like, yeah.
Or is that the old Budweiser or whatever?
Yeah, that's probably
What's
it.
up,
Have you ever
B?
seen the old Budweiser with the Super Friends?
Oh, yeah.
Watching the game, having a bug.
So we just dominated that with more.
No, that's great.
Is this going to become Q&A
that's
now?
fine. That's fine.
No, yeah. I mean, this is great. I want to keep going with it a little bit. I know you guys talk about Occam's razor on your show, and we talk about it occasionally on ours, but really only to say that we can't really use it, or we don't really know how to use it in this case. How would you guys go about using it in this case? if you think it's usable at all here.
Well, I think the simplest explanation is she was not in the right state of mind, and she was making bad decisions at that point. Now, whether those bad decisions be hitchhiking with the wrong person, running off into the wilderness, just escaping and running away from that situation, I think that's the simplest explanation. Now, Aaron and I might differ on her action, but I think we get there the same way. Is she's not in the right sound and mind, and she's taken off because it's obvious. I mean, we all have our own level of rock bottom, but I think she was at her rock bottom at that point, which again, I have friends that are way worse than her that probably still haven't hit their rock bottom. But I mean, she wasn't that bad of a kid. She really wasn't.
No, not at all. But for rock bottom, it was somewhat, I don't know if thought out is the right term, but it was almost mature that she just said, this is too much right now, and I gotta just get away for maybe a week, or, then I know there's been some debate on whether she was planning on coming back or whatnot, but if she was telling the truth a little bit to her professors, saying she'll be back in a week, that might have been kind of a mature thing to do. Say, instead of staying here or having a mental breakdown, or sitting in my room for half a week, I'd rather clear my head, breathe some fresh air, go on a couple hikes. Yeah. Maybe come back refreshed.
But then even when she does that, the deck's stacked against her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking at Occam's razor as a variety of factors. Her taking down of everything in her room, putting it in boxes, stacking it up, putting that printed email on there, notifying her teacher she was leaving, not telling any family, if we take that as the word, not telling family where she was going, and just taking off. To me, it just keeps adding up to she's leaving her buddy, she's leaving her family, she's leaving school, leaving her boyfriend. It's like an abandonment. She's abandoning that life. And to me, she's not abandoning it for a brighter life. When people get depressed or they're having a break of some kind, they don't see another side as being green. They see it as being black. So to me, she was just going away, and the wreck to me indicates she was upset. She's obviously not a good driver anyway, but now she's even worse because of her state of mind. And then she refuses help. The guy can say he's scary, but even just saying, I'll go back and call, she doesn't even want that. She could have negotiated that. Look, I don't want the police, but could you call an ambulance or anything? Could you call a family member? Could you call this friend of mine? She doesn't do that. She's not in her right state of mind. She wants to get away from even there. To me, she heads out, maybe down that dirt road. Where she ends up, I don't know, but I know she's fit enough, from what I understand, to take off and cover a lot of distance that night, even before any searchers show up. So I know I couldn't keep up with her.
And it was really cold at that time. So, I mean, it doesn't take that long to... she might have lasted the night, but she probably, if she stayed out in the elements, she probably would have froze to death pretty quick. And of course, yes, remains can stay a long time, but in the elements with wilderness and everything else, animals, who knows? I mean,
yeah,
it's tough to say.
Well, I mean, I kind of disagree that she would allow herself to die. I feel like she was such a good hiker, and she went to UMass, and her sister, Julie, I mean, not UMass, she went to West Point. Her sister, Julie, did, and her dad drove these girls to excel. I feel like if she felt like she was succumbing to the elements, I feel like she knew what to do. It's real. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy in the sense of like, oh, it's easy for anybody to not succumb to the elements, but I feel like she would keep moving to keep her body temperature up.
Didn't she take alcohol with her?
That is still, we have no idea. And honestly, like, we can't even really comment on where the alcohol ended up because there's so much conjecture.
I don't disagree that she might know how to keep herself alive, but I'm suggesting to you that I could see her just leaning up against a tree far out somewhere and just giving up. Or if she had a head injury, she could have expired that way. She finally blacked out, and there she goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. And we had heard some science that we should probably look into this a little more, but that if you're running in that kind of temperature, you could actually freeze to death sooner than if you're not. I'm not sure how good that science
you're
is.
sweating.
I guess.
No,
Is
Yeah.
it the increased, what do you say, the increased exchange of the oxygen? So you're taking in all this really cold air faster
and
in greater
perspiration,
amounts?
and you perspire, which makes it colder.
Yeah.
But well, I agree with Lance. If she was wanting to survive, she probably could have taken care of herself. But that's the question: is was she wanting to survive, or was she going out there to give up?
Well, then we get to the gas in the gas tank. If she's going out there to end it all, she has nearly a full tank of gas. That means she stopped to get gas, so she had a destination she was going to.
Yeah, I agree. When I was prepping for this, my thought was she planned to go way out, maybe where her dad would go hiking with her, somewhere farther out, and then this latest wreck, wherever that happened, whether it was where her car was found or just before there, that changed everything. That was it. She gave up there instead of driving to her destination she originally wanted to make it to.
Like a misstep in her plan.
Yeah, she kept having missteps. It seemed like she wasn't as well organized when she was putting this all together. So
Yeah, it's hard to disagree. Absolutely, that her plan changed somewhere along that route. It seems to me
that would explain the gas.
Yeah,
I would actually take it one step further, and I don't think she was actually going out there to do harm, but with that wreck, it was just, to me, it was the straw that broke the camel's back. It was just the last thing of, okay, I'm done. Maybe she went out there to clear her head. She wasn't in a good state of mind, but maybe suicide wasn't on the forefront. You know, she was depressed. She was having a hard time, but then, oh my gosh, I wrecked my car now, and I have alcohol. It's over now. Like,
yeah.
she was on that path, but maybe not quite there. Just a little modification to Aaron's idea.
Yeah.
Either way, I don't think she's alive.
Yeah.
Whatever happened, I don't think she's alive. I don't think she's organized enough or was stable enough. And I think if she got stable, if things evened out, I think she would have been back in touch with her family, especially her dad.
Have you guys looked at any Jane Doe, like unidentified bodies?
Yeah, we have, and a lot of the listeners have too. Sent us a lot of information on that, but yeah, it doesn't seem like there's anything there. No.
I think it was maybe like 2 years ago they found the skull of a woman, and the whole Maura community was abuzz, and it turned out to be somebody else.
And I'm sure Maura's not the only one missing up there. That's the sad part.
No,
It is a creepy area in a lot of ways.
I want to say one thing about the about her running into the woods. And I see what you're saying. Like, if she just got out of the car and just ran and ran and ran, you can. Her remains might be 7 miles into the woods. You know, like, they might be so deep into the woods. And, you know, we keep saying that they had the helicopter with the
Infrared.
or the heat. I mean, they did search through those woods, but, you know, those are very thick, very dense, vast woods. It just made me think maybe part of our, you know, our mission moving forward is to organize another search that's deeper into the woods.
That's an excellent idea, and I would actually try to take that route if you went down the dirt road. But I have read from people that have used those systems and have been on searches, and they're not as great as you think. I mean, I don't think anything can beat just searching. I think if you guys went out there and said, okay, they searched 5 miles, we'll go outside that 5 miles. Yeah. I think you'd have better luck than 3 helicopters with FLIR.
Yeah. Well, there's the forest, right? That's right a few miles east, and that's what way Fred believes she ran. He's always said that that he thinks she was driving that way, so he thinks she was heading that way and would have went that way, and he complains that the police didn't really search that way.
Would he be up for joining you guys, or does he sort of have an animosity?
I think he would be up for joining us.
Yeah, he's a good hiker, so
at least it would put people's minds at ease that it was still being searched.
Yeah, you
Because,
want the same
I mean,
thing he does. You want answers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And nothing's been found. Like, not even nothing has been found.
Right.
Nothing credible has. So that means wherever, if she did run into the woods and she's like 10 or 12 miles into the woods, everything should be on her body, or at some, on some,
should find
on some
something.
level.
yeah.
Yeah, it should be in that vicinity because nothing's been found. Not
Right.
even a footprint, no shoe. Like,
Did she have a backpack? Right.
Yeah, supposedly she did. And
That's
had a
something that would
backpack,
hold
which-
up. That would be that would probably be the thing you're looking for.
that may have even been found. We're actually not really sure. There was a backpack found and given to police. That's part of the problem, I think, here is that we don't hear anything from police. And the family doesn't either. The police, they don't really do any press conferences. They, kind of just maybe want this whole story to go away because it's unlikely they're gonna get anywhere. It seems like, but then from other people we've heard is that they're close right now to getting a search going, and they can't get the owner's permission to search where they want to search. So it's really hard to discern what is real and what isn't about their investigations.
There's a homeowner that has property where she could have ended up.
Yeah,
there's a couple.
There's a lot of rumors, that about concrete being poured. A lot of rumors in that area.
People saying things like, "If you don't shut your mouth, I'll do to you what I did to that Maura." People at cookouts saying, bragging about getting away with murder.
So a 12-pack isn't going to smooth things over.
No.
We might want to go for a 30 rack.
Or an interview. Say, hey, you'll be on the internet.
Well, and then if you've listened to any of our episodes, okay, so you're the homeowner. Oh yeah, go ahead and search, and then they find the body. Now your ass is in jail.
Right.
I might be a little reluctant myself.
Right. Yeah, I think it's tough to tell what's true and what's not, and we're searching for building permits and stuff like that, and it seems like New Hampshire is pretty free about that stuff, and I don't think a lot of people pull permits. Unfortunately, that might have helped us.
That's because I remember
We're just starting to look into that.
Yeah.
I don't know if you need a permit in New Hampshire to pour concrete, but I would imagine that you need a permit in New Hampshire to set a foundation to erect a
building.
a structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anywhere, I would assume in any state you would need that, but doesn't mean they do it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of strange local rumors, a lot of really dark stuff, but it we have like a folder of like 15 to 20 people that we've looked into as possibly, having something to do with making her go away. And we have no idea if any of them are like better than the better than the next. We've looked in, have a few people I think we like, but
How many of them could have caught her?
Could have caught her running?
Yes.
Probably none.
There you go.
Oh,
I might be crazy, but I think she didn't want help from that one guy. A lot of people probably look scary out there.
Yeah.
If she really refuses all help, maybe she just takes off. And I mean, if those people can't catch her, I don't know. Might be able to scratch them off.
They can catch her in a car though. They can bump her in a car.
You guys started this whole project for more or less to make the documentary.
Mm-hmm.
And were you planning on the podcast to be as big as it is, or take up as much time?
No to both of those. Yeah.
How's the documentary coming along?
It's good. And I think it's on track now. We're accumulating a lot of footage and starting to get into some editing. And so I think it's really going to be a great documentary when we focus more on it. It's hard though, because the story to us isn't really complete yet. Mm-hmm. It started as sort of the thesis was, what is it about this case that makes people so obsessed, and why are so many people looking at it online and, doing their armchair detective thing. And at some point along the way in the podcast, we got an inkling that we might be able to make a difference here and help find her or get some closure. And so we kind of shifted our focus in towards that. And so that's kind of what the podcast has been the last like maybe 15 episodes or something like that. But I think
life of its own.
yeah, it really did. And we in turn we've become what we were documenting.
We're not batshit crazy though.
Did you know that there were so many weird characters up there before you started, or did you assume?
No, I don't think so. It's the more people you look into up there, it seems like everyone's got skeletons in their closet, everyone's got demons, and we've heard everyone's a bad person. Well, a lot of people are bad people up there.
Yeah, and if they're not, they just kind of like to fuck with you. I feel like if they know that you're interested in it, they might throw some rumors out there because without being negative towards people in the White Mountain region of New Hampshire, like that little town, like, you know, they stick together. They keep to themselves, and you bring your business in there, and they don't want your business in there. And it's nothing where they're going to say, you know, they're not going to chase you out of town with torches, but there's a very vocal group up there that's just like, leave us alone. Like we're getting pissed now. Like, leave us alone. And a lot of that was brought on by Renner because he's just a compulsive door knocker. And if you don't give him information, you say no comment, that means you're hiding something. So now he's going to look into you, and now he's going to say, well, why wouldn't you ever want to talk to me? I'm writing a book. It's, you'll be part of the story. Don't you want to be a part of the story and have your name out there? Most people up there will say, fuck you, I don't.
Yeah.
No way.
Get off my land.
Right. And we wish that a lot of the people up there were more media hungry, because we would have had a lot more interviews.
Yeah. Like, and the thing that the Tim Westman thing is proof of this, that there's some part of them that likes fucking with you. We were up there at the end of October, and it was very cold, and the grass was not growing. And we're out there with audio equipment and cameras, clearly doing something, and Tim Westman decides to hop on his riding lawnmower and starts riding around. And we're like, there's no way that guy went out there at that time of night, not night, but late afternoon, and thought, well, this is perfect. This is when I'm gonna, give that lawn the final cut.
That's what he said, Lance. He said he was planning to do it all day. So you're calling him a liar if you say that.
I can see where you would get that impression, though, and obviously it's small towns, locals only, city slickers from the outside. I get it. I mean,
yeah. And there's also, I feel like, a little bit of a Massachusetts-New Hampshire rivalry, sort of in a weird way. I don't know really what that's all about.
That's human nature.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
Because we live in Missouri, but there's a Kansas and Missouri rivalry. I won't say it goes all the way back to the Civil War and the bloody Lawrence and invading, but it's just, I think Kansas drivers suck. I think their roads suck. And people will say, no, it's the Missouri drivers.
No comment.
Nice.
So I get it.
Well, what do you guys think? Like, why is this case like so polarizing and the topic of discussion in a lot of places online? Like, why are people obsessed with it?
It's a perfect example of a case where people assume that you'd find something. There would be something either at the scene or nearby that would give a clue, at least even to which direction she went. In this case, she just literally disappears, which is why so many, I think a good number of people think she got into a car. Mm-hmm. And it's because they think, well, you would see a footprint. You would see something that indicated that she went somewhere where she didn't get into a car. But it's because of these unanswered questions. There's so many of them that the case just sends you down those rabbit holes. Think about how many episodes you've done. Yeah, it's really apparent why this case is as big as it is.
And mm-hmm. to be totally honest, when you guys first started this and, we're like, we're going to do a series, Aaron and I were like, they only have enough material for one episode. What the hell?
I didn't say that. Because I talked to Tim, and I told him, I said, we barely scratched the surface because there's so many questions here. And I said they could easily do what they're doing with Serial.
Yeah,
because
but
there's so many questions here.
Their
relationships.
I assumed
just talking about her boyfriend.
I assumed 3 or 4 episodes. I was like,
I
don't know.
assumed a lot more.
You know, I just assumed 3 or 4. But then you guys have really flushed it out to the point where I'm like, oh my god, there is so many different angles here that I just would have never considered.
Yeah, I think
there's so much we haven't talked about.
That is true too. But I think I remember Aaron saying we could probably do anywhere between 5 and 25. If I'm not mistaken. I think that's what
it depends on what you want to do. You know, if you just stuck with the facts and then chose, say, 2 or 3 scenarios, you could keep it down low. But when you say, let's really focus on this one person that knew her, like even the guy that got hit by a car, supposedly, and some people thought maybe she hit him, that alone, you could do a couple of episodes on easily. And that's just one person.
Sure.
So when you extrapolate that out and think about all the possibilities with the different people who have studied this case, you have Renner. I would think Renner could be good for many episodes. Yeah, you could really take this out to what's known as a season easily.
I will say, Justin, that I when Lance had the idea to do a podcast about this, I didn't believe that it could be more than a few episodes either. And a few months later, I think, you know, we kind of came around to it together and started doing it.
Well, that's cool because I felt like a jerk after I said it.
Yeah, it's just when we cover cases, we'll pick a case, and there are many cases we could cover that only need an episode.
Yeah.
But that's because there are answers.
Yeah. And this is kind of in our backyard. We have no excuse if it's a Saturday and we're not doing anything. I can drive 2 hours and go to the accident site, you know, or I could drive 45 minutes and go knock on her dad's door if I want.
Yeah.
You know, and then to have it so close, it almost feels like you're not doing it justice by ending. You know, without some sort of conclusion.
It's like the gym membership that you don't use and the gym's a mile away. It's like you just kick yourself for it.
But by bringing attention to the case the way you are, it's just like the Adnan case. It's just like the Avery case. Who knows what will kick up out of the dust?
Yeah. And that's something I want to talk to you guys about is like is feedback and the feedback that you guys have gotten, and also something that we've kind of come into, and I wonder how you guys handle it. But as we've mentioned, you know, there are some people that we have on a list, persons of interest, I guess you could call it, for our podcast investigation. But we feel, you know, uncomfortable just like mentioning these people's names and just saying, oh, well, it could have been this person because of this. I know you guys occasionally will talk about, you know, in some murder mystery episodes that you guys do, you'll throw out the names of the suspects. And obviously if they're suspects to the point where you know they're in on the news or maybe in newspapers, stuff like that. So it's a little less invasive, I guess. But how do you guys handle that? And are you ever like hesitant to mention suspects' names for the reason they might be listening?
I don't think so, but typically the difference is there's somebody sitting in jail. There's already an answer there. So if we name other suspects, it doesn't matter that much because we're not pointing the finger and saying they did it. We're just saying, hey, this is the evidence that says this could have happened this way, and this is the person that could have been involved, but society, the justice system, has already found its answer. But you asked about a teaser. We're probably going to be covering a case in the future where I think we're absolutely going to not point the finger, but name some other people in a case that could possibly be the perpetrators.
Is this the case that you guys are doing that's going to take up a few episodes? Or okay, cool. Yeah, I would love to get a spoiler from you guys.
We will not be taking this to 25 episodes. All I can say is when I talk about suspects, I really try to think, how can I word this so that it's not as inflammatory? So let's say there's a woman named Lucy that may have done the crime. I'll say, well, some think Lucy would make for a good suspect because, and then talk about why. I can't just sit there and say, oh yeah, Lucy's the one that did it. Unless we just covered Hinter Kafek late last year. And that's a case where it's so long ago, no one's going to care. So we actually point at a suspect and say, we really think this person did it. They had the access, they had the time, and there were already some issues there. So,
But when you got 80 to 100 years,
it's a buffer.
yeah, that's a buffer. As far as current cases, I think it's just all in the tactfulness of it. You can just say, well, here they found some blood in O.J. Simpson's SUV. So what do you make of that? You know, and you ask the audience the question. You present the evidence, and then you say, well, here it is. And you don't have to say anything. And I guess that's probably the better, more tactful way to do it. Because, I mean, no matter what, you're going to piss people off. So at least you can cover your own bases and know you did the right thing.
Right. Have you guys ever gotten threatened with lawsuits or anything like that? Or have you ever heard from families of victims that are angry at you guys? Yeah.
Several family members have contacted us. And I'll say this, most of the time when they contact us, I won't say it's exactly negative, but it doesn't matter if we were on their side or not. They're so passionately involved that no matter what we say, if it wasn't exactly the wording they wanted to hear, they probably are going to be unhappy with our take on the case because we're outsiders just giving our commentary, really. So they're going to nitpick. They're going to analyze the shit out of us and find fault. A lot of them are very respectful when they reach out to us. But still, I'm trying to think of a positive one where they...
No, we've had lots of positive ones, and he's right. The majority of people who contact us, and for most of the time, I had been fielding the emails and things because that's just I just like doing that, I guess. Yeah. But we were contacted in a case where the Elkhart 4, right?
Yeah.
And one of the mothers contacted, and she was a little upset because she said, how dare you say that they skipped school? They got out early that day. And she was really upset about that because she said it made her kid look bad. And
But her kid was breaking into a house with other kids, and the homeowner shot one of them, and they all go to jail for 40, 50 years for felony murder charge because the homeowner killed one of them. So they say, well, you were committing a felony, therefore you're responsible.
Sure.
Well, it was like on a Tuesday or Wednesday at like 1 p.m. We just assumed they might have skipped school. But we absolutely said these kids were treated unfairly. These sentences are way too long and outlandish and blah, 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 blah. Like, we were actually advocating for these kids. But when the mom caught a hold of us, she wasn't happy because we said her kid was skipping school.
I think she chilled out, though. The way I remember it was Justin explained it to her, and then she seemed to be, oh, okay. And just recently I was contacted by the sister-in-law of Scott Peterson.
Mm-hmm.
No shit.
This is not Ann Bird, who's the sister, who thinks he did it. This is the sister-in-law who said he didn't do it. Here's why. And I spent a good 35, 40 minutes with her on Skype talking, and she won't come on the show because, as she said, if you are a supporter of someone who's considered to be guilty, you're not allowed to have any pain. You're not allowed to have an opinion.
Yeah.
So she would just be attacked.
Yeah.
But she was very good. I told her, I said, I found you to be very intelligent and you have a very good grasp of this case. And I said, it's just too bad you feel you can't come on and speak, because we would have totally let her.
Because most of the advocates we get, they just like to yell and shout and dictate a narrative, which obviously if you've followed us at any point in time, you know we don't follow any narrative.
A lot of times there are very few cases, we talked about this before, that we're very adamant about. You know, for me, it's Darlie Retier, Jeffrey McDonald. A lot of the rest of the cases, I don't know. we change our minds sometimes just on
Absolutely.
any given Sunday. It's like, yeah, maybe Adnan didn't do it, you know, like, or whatever it is, you know.
Well, that's the shitty thing is the podcast you hear is just the snapshot in time of us having that discussion and how it comes out. An hour before, an hour after, it could have been different completely.
Yeah.
Could have said
And it
something.
was.
Yeah.
I think what we get is we get into this mode where, especially when there's a very biased documentary or a very biased group covering the case, dominating it, we almost get like devil's advocate. I know I do. So we've agreed now, if there's a trending case anymore, we'll either not cover it or we'll be very neutral.
Yeah.
Oh, you guys got to keep covering it. As soon as I saw you guys with a Stephen Avery, I was like, it's like these guys got to be doing a Stephen Avery episode soon. And sure enough, like a couple days later, it was in the feed, and I was all over it. I thought you guys did a great job, and I know you guys got a lot of feedback on it. Yeah. And you released a second episode, which I gobbled up right away as well. But in watching the Making a Murder documentary, it's really hard to not say, well, you know, this family got screwed by the system. And, you know, when you hear a lot more of the facts, it's obviously not quite that slanted. And I remember in watching the documentary thinking like, this is a great documentary because of how emotional I feel and because of how outraged everyone was from watching it. But I knew it wasn't the whole story. It couldn't have been.
Yeah. I mean, stylistically, the way they pulled on your heartstrings, it was magnificent. But as far as an actual investigation, you know, it was a little slanted.
Yeah. Well, it needs to have a narrative, and they chose the narrative that's going to work.
Yeah, they did.
And it was very effective.
Luckily, you guys don't have that kind of a choice to make. You know, you have a missing persons case, so there's no wrongful conviction or this person's guilty or not. So you guys, you know, you don't have that hard choice to go with.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. All you have to do is express some sympathy for her family.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which we do have, which is genuine. And it's, you know, it's like, I think we realized early on that it's dangerous to hold on to a theory because you're just going to start bending your narrative to fit it. And you're going to look stupid in the end, you know, because it's probably not going to be the facts. It's not going to be accurate. And you're just going to look like you just blindly went forward with it.
I think you can have a theory, but you should never stop searching. As long as you don't have all the answers, you should keep searching. So even if you have kind of a working theory, like I may tell you this is what I think, but trust me, it's in pencil on paper and an eraser can erase it. If you guys, in tandem with some other people, if you did a search and you found her backpack or something like that, that would open up a whole new avenue. Even if it sort of fits my narrative, that still brings in more questions. There's more possibilities there.
But confirmation bias is a bitch. I mean,
so I would say keep searching because we don't have her bones. We don't have shirt. We don't have evidence of her being anywhere else for sure. So keep searching.
Yeah.
And then the question at that point is, what do we do with this if we search and we find something? Because we know anytime anything is found that might be connected to her, whether it's, you know, blood stains that are on a floor and the carpet's given to the state police, or a bloody knife that one of the suspects gives, you know, nothing ever comes back to it. I can imagine us going on a search and finding, you know, like a pair of socks or something, and even if we go with Fred and he says, yeah, that was those socks belong to Maura, and if we turn that over to the cold case unit, I know there's a big percentage of me that thinks, wow, we'll never hear back from them.
It's a guarantee.
Do you know about the Ryan Ferguson case?
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, Kathleen Zellner helped get him released from prison. One of the things that she found when she went and investigated, because is she found some bloody underwear that was in above the women's restroom, in, you know, the tiles in the ceiling. She handed that over to the police. They lost them.
That was the Mario case, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, that wasn't Ryan Ferguson.
It was Mario.
But she was investigating the Mario Casaro case where Brian Carrick went missing. He's right. Yeah. So Brian Carrick goes missing. Well, he and this other guy that were involved in the case were both smaller guys. And she found underwear that could have been either one. We don't know whose it was, but
If they don't fit, you must have quit.
well, no. So she finds the underwear, and she turns it in, and the police admit that they don't know where they went.
Yeah.
Now you tell me, you find bloody underwear from the scene that they missed.
Murder scene.
Is this, well, because the murder scene was in the cooler, but obviously someone stashed something up there. And why would they do that? Why would it just be a pair of underwear? What else did they miss?
Well,
so they hand these in, they disappear. Is it because their pride's been damaged? This female lawyer comes in and finds evidence that they missed? Or what happened? Why would you lose that? Do you think that would be bagged and entered into evidence and it would kickstart the search again?
I guess
Right.
my advice to you is if you find a backpack, take it to the family first. Take it to an individual DNA tester first. I mean, well, the Robert Durst documentary, those guys like did all their stuff before they turned it over to the police. And as much as I hate to endorse not going to law enforcement, you've already seen the pattern there.
Right. It's been 12 years of the pattern. So at this point, what could we possibly have to lose?
Yeah. I mean, Aaron's more by the book. I'm a fucking anarchist. So I would tell you just to take it and have it go tested on your own.
No, I would say if
tell
you
by the
guys
hairline.
have really looked at this case, if you really feel like they don't care, then you guys need to make that call.
Yeah.
And you won't be wrong either way.
Have you guys ever been creeped out by anyone emailing you or emailing you anything strange or contacting you in some kind of way or anything dark like that?
Of course.
What's your experiences with that?
Yeah, I can't speak on it too much because it invites more of that. And that's the best way I can put it is we're monitored. And if we say too much, then we'll be admonished further.
Are you guys in the Illuminati?
What the fuck are you talking about? Do I
no.
know about this? Do I know about these emails?
Maybe you guys should talk about this.
Let me put it this way.
I feel like this is like couples counseling.
I know.
Counseling here.
Yeah, I could tell you off record.
Okay.
I would totally tell you off record.
Okay. That's fair. Yeah, we had some emails and stuff like that. We put an episode out, the Lincoln, New Hampshire episode, and we were really at a point where it was like we're really effing creeped out by this, and we can either talk about this on the podcast and invite everyone in and just shine a light on how freaked out we got, or we can just keep it to ourselves between us two and the guy who emailed us.
It never happened.
Yeah. And we had that thought, like we're probably inviting more by just talking about it. But
you guys
I feel
had
like,
your meetup and you had like some stipulations for the attendees.
yeah, and we canceled it even with.
Oh,
the
I didn't realize you
stipulations.
canceled it.
Yeah, the first one.
You didn't reschedule.
Oh, yeah.
You did reschedule.
We didn't, and I'm sure there was no danger to us or anyone at the event, but it was just enough to creep us out, and we sent it to the police and everything, and we were trying to get it tracked and everything like that, and
You mean documented?
yeah,
Was it an email or what form did it come in?
an email?
Did you get the header information? Do you still have the email?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, actually we got the header information, and I gave it to someone at my work who who's an IT guy, and I didn't give him the background to it, and he just came back to me and said, "Oh, don't worry, it's just spam." And I said, "No, I know it's not spam. I know it's from a person." And he kind of gave me this blank look, and he goes, "This isn't from a person." And I said, "No, I'm positive this is from a person. They sent this email specifically, like referencing stuff, like they know my name, And and he goes, "Okay, well, let me give it to a friend of mine who knows a little bit more about this." And he came back a couple days later and just said, he was like, "Dude, I don't know what person this is, but they have encrypted and they have buried this as deep as I've seen anybody."
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, he thought it was spam. He thought he was reassuring me by telling me it was spam.
I had a friend that was dating a crazy girl, and she got a hold of his phone, saw that he was like texting another girl, so she sent one of his dick pics out to his entire family and everything from his account. from her phone. So he comes to me and he's like, trace this email. And I take the header information. I'm like, where do you live? And he's like, I live out in, bumfuck, whatever. And I'm like, where does she live? And he goes, in your city. And I'm like, it came from my city. I was able to get it down to that point where I'm like, it came from where I live.
That's good. Yeah.
I'm like, so it obviously was her if we're just choosing between you or her, but at the same time, cell phone tower data, it's all different.
I guess I have to clear up. The email header wasn't, as far as we know. We've gotten we've gotten related emails from different types of monikers, and the one that I gave this guy was from another email that brought us to Lincoln, which might be connected to the emails that were given to us by the person that, like, why we left Lincoln. So we think they might be connected, and they all kind of look the same.
We've gotten some creepy emails, as in just the people are wackadoodle. But as far as threatening, I've personally not seen those. Aaron, I guess, has, but I haven't. I've seen the wackadoodle ones and just crazy people, but I haven't seen threatening or dark.
Speaking about, I guess, what we were just talking about, maybe the topic before, which was like what to do if you find evidence or something like that. If you don't believe the police, you're never going to hear back from them. Is this the future of true crime entertainment? Is like sort of what we're doing, what you guys are doing, and I know there are a lot of shows out there nowadays, a lot of TV shows that will try to solve cases. Like I know the Jinx did so very successfully. Do you think more shows and podcasts are going to get into this kind of thing?
Absolutely. I think we're on the what's the
leading edge.
Leading edge, yeah. I think true crime is just exploding more and more with these documentaries coming out, and Serial and everything. And I even I know, you look at Fight Club and Project Mayhem. I know that's fictional. And Gillian Flynn put out her book, Dark Places, and she talks about the Murder Club, which is a group of individual investigators and stuff that are literally just trying to investigate murders on their own outside the law. Some of them are law enforcement or whatever, but that's not a far-fetched idea. It really isn't.
No, not at all.
And especially with cold cases being so prevalent, and they really don't have the manpower to investigate all of them. So it always kind of makes me wonder if the New Hampshire cold case unit actually appreciates what we do, or if they just really want us to stop. And not even just us, but other people like us.
I think pride and ego makes them want you to stop, because they just sadly I think that just gets in the way, because they don't want to look bad. They don't want to be made to look bad.
I think that there's a line though. When we were up there for the 12-year anniversary, we actually spoke to someone. It was probably 22, maybe 20, between 20 and 22, 23. And she's going to a college up there, and her roommate, not her college roommate, we got the impression that she lived off campus. Her roommate was it was his first, or he just finished his first year in for the New Hampshire State Police, right, Tim? It was the State Police?
Yeah.
And he was saying, just talking about the attitudes at the time. So maybe that pride and everything, and some of the things that she had said to us were really familiar to us, like a certain generation. So maybe that pride and that the ego might be hopefully ebbing away a bit, and that the more, I don't want to say tech savvy, but the more in tune and socially in tune generation is coming in, and maybe they realize the benefit, and hopefully they can manage between the benefit and the distraction that it could be.
The new guard comes in and they know what Twitter is. So I get it.
I just wanted to mention a few episodes that you guys have done, and I guess sort of just geek out a little bit and see what you guys feel. But some of my favorite episodes that you guys have done, In Broad Daylight, I think is maybe one of my favorite ones that you guys have ever done. I know you guys had the author of the book on, and the story just completely blew me away. It was I think I've listened to that one twice now, and it was really one of the best just like American crime stories that I've ever heard. It was really, and one of you guys mentioned it. It was like it's like the Old West. But basically, Lance, I don't know if you've heard this story, but it was a town bully who was murdered by the townspeople in broad daylight after he slept with a lot of their wives and daughters and burnt down a lot of barns and stuff like that. And it's really amazing that could happen in relatively close time to today. What was that, in the 80s, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Those in modern times, yeah.
Pretty modern times. But yeah, I absolutely love that episode.
That came about because Justin told me about the story. He had heard about it. And so we thought, well, let's just reach out to the author.
Well, that was the thing is maybe, Aaron's always the one that actually gets the guests on, interacts with them, communicates with them. And typically a lot of the authors had been coming to us. Or, one guy from one publishing company comes on and then all his buddy, the pass around.
Sure.
But that was the story I heard. And I think it's a Missouri story, right? And I was like, this is wacky. This is crazy. Call this guy. And Aaron called him. And I think his first impression was, why the hell are you calling me? Like, what do you want?
No, he was excited. He loves the story too, just like anyone else would. And if you're into reading books, I highly recommend the book because, wow, it's amazing. You'll tear right through the book. It'll keep your attention.
And he spent 2 years in the town?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
And check out that town.
Yeah.
Because that's not the only wackadoodle fucked up shit that happens there.
Really?
There's like a disappearance from child disappearance and stuff that happened. It's crazy. So that whole town could have like its own podcast.
That's definitely something to look into.
Is that how you get most of your storylines? Is I guess I'm wondering how you get most of your storylines. Do you just kind of research it on your own, or did it turn into something where you said publishers will contact you and
all of the above? In the beginning, Aaron and I would find a murder or something. But we'd always find one that was just totally whacked out, like had some sort of just crazy detail about it. It wasn't ever a just straight up, okay, this guy goes in and just kills somebody. It was always somebody's in prison and they shouldn't be. And but now we just get onslaughts of listener requests and we just kind of cherry pick through those now.
Well, actually, I've spent many years watching true crime shows. And I have just a ton of cases in my head that we've never covered. So a lot of times people will contact us and I'll know about many of them. And yet today I got a suggestion from a listener that I had never heard of the case. So it's kind of everything. But I know there are many cases I want to cover yet that we still haven't gotten to.
We basically live in a pretty sick world, so I'm sure there's
no shortage.
A deep well of cases that you probably haven't heard of yet.
I can't see an end. Yeah. There's no end. We won't run out of shows
ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you guys done an Elisa Lam episode?
Yes.
What did you guys conclude on that one?
Sort of different things. On that episode, we brought in our Tennessee friend in Finland, TJ, and some misspeaks on that episode. Some people called us out for a few of the details, but for the most part, I felt that she just lost her mind and had a breakdown and climbed up there herself. A lot of people talk about how tall and how hard it would have been for her to climb up there. But then they say, well, she was murdered. And I'm like, well, if it's so tall and huge for you to climb up there, then imagine dragging a body up there. Like that would, to me, would be even harder to do. So I just assumed she just went crazy and had a breakdown.
Just like a bipolar episode.
Yeah.
Off the meds.
Yeah, and she
Yeah.
was off her meds. She was supposed to be on meds, and they were Lamictal and Wellbutrin, which are mood stabilizers.
What
Yeah,
happens is you're on the medications. They make you better. Then you think, I don't need the medications because I'm better. But they're not cures. They're management.
Yeah, and obviously that video from the elevator sort of, to me, when I first saw that, I said, you know, she looks like she's on mushrooms or something like that.
Yeah. But no drugs found in her system.
Right. But yeah, and that was the weird thing. It was because she was seemingly a little bit scared, but also a little bit playful.
Yeah.
In the way she was kind of moving around, so it was very confusing. But wasn't the water tank locked from the outside?
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't. Okay.
No. Now it is. And
Right.
the door to the rooftop was not locked. Like, it was just OSHA was not apparently on site.
Gotcha.
Well, that's you would put that on the hotel. Should have been secured.
Now, a couple that you guys have done. You guys will always. I like that you guys touch on paranormal topics like the Warrens or Billy Meyer, or even the Dyatlov Pass, which some people think is sort of like a paranormal topic.
Yeah.
But you guys will never go there with the actual paranormal stuff. You'll never claim that it's paranormal or that you know anything like that. And I guess that's the only gripe that I have with your show, and it's really only because I'm a fan of paranormal and I just want to hear people talk about it and say, yes, that is, you know, you're right, ghosts did that or whatever.
You're saying I'm not a fan? You know, Colin and I, when Colin's been on with me, we talk about the paranormal. We both say we're big fans of the paranormal. We just don't believe in it.
Right.
Now, what I would love for you to do, if you have a case that you think is suggestive of paranormal and not of just someone throwing a Lego at a stranger's face, send it in. We would love to cover something like that.
Fantastic. Yeah. I absolutely, I'm right with you guys. Oh, go ahead.
If you go back and listen to the Amityville episode,
Yes.
I tell a personal story of a paranormal experience I had that I cannot explain.
Okay, good.
Yeah, go back and listen. It's creepy.
It is.
I will have to re-listen to that. I'm pretty sure I've heard every single one of your guys' episodes, except probably the last two that you guys have put out.
And what is it about those that you don't like?
No, I mean,
I'm teasing. No, I was just kidding.
No, I love the show. I just, I guess one day I'm just hoping you guys say, yeah, well, it looks like he really was abducted by aliens, or the Lego really did come from nowhere.
On our last personal stories episode, Aaron sees a UFO.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No, I heard that. Yep. Yep.
So there's two instances.
I saw an unidentified flying object. I have no idea what it is.
Yeah. So there's two instances of 160 something episodes where we're like in question here.
I've wanted it to be true for a long time. Trust me.
I remember you saying that to me on the phone when we first spoke. I guess the only one, like, I agree with you guys with the Warrens, and Billy Meyer is a little out there for me as well. But
was it Billy Meyer that threatened us with lawsuit?
No, his North American representative did. I won't say his name, though, because he put me on a list with other scientists, which I thought was pretty cool, but he didn't mean it in a nice way.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, he threatened me. He said, I'm going to make sure everyone knows that you've recanted because you haven't agreed to meet with me. So that's an automatic recantment by Saturday, blah, blah, blah. And I said, nothing. All of his emails, I actually started routing them into the trash. And they were huge emails. They were really long. So I would forward those to Colin, and he would just send me LOLs over the messaging.
That's fantastic. Now, I think the only episode that I listened to with you guys, and I was like, it's like, I can't believe you concluded that. And it is the Dyatlov Pass one. And you guys, I believe, concluded an avalanche, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, still do. At least I do.
Yeah.
No doubt.
And I don't know what the hell happened there, but But I don't know. I think that is one of the best stories that I can look at and say, it seems like there's something paranormal that happened there. And even with the hikers that went missing recently there, I don't actually know the conclusion of that story, but I know that a hiking party went missing recently in that same spot after finding a body.
I guess the avalanche is just one explanation. I was on Reddit the other day, and this guy posted a bunch of pictures of, I don't know if it was Everest or what mountain it was, but the pictures he posted were all of the dead hikers that you pass along the trail.
I've seen
really morbid. And I mean, these are just guys that were literally steps away from a fellow hiker, and they died, and no one's even able to retrieve their body. And there's no avalanche, there's nothing involved. So it's just hiking in the most extreme elements. I think you can just succumb to, that. But the past episode, there was some weird shit going on with that. But again, I just say the avalanche theory is just an explanation.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I heard recently was that maybe they were poisoned by some berries or some kind of hallucinogenic drugs that got them into a state where they would, run out of a tent naked or close to it.
It's possible, but I guess, I mean, it looked like a sheet of ice up there. I don't know where berries would have been growing. Like,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, maybe they brought drugs, but
that would have been my hiking trip. But
I don't know. You bring supplies with you when you go on a hike like that. When you go, it's not like they didn't know what they were doing. But I think that the condition of the tent really influenced me.
What about the tongue or the radiation detected?
Well, their lanterns would have left radiation on them.
Or, I mean, there's houses here in Missouri where
house.
Yeah, you have to have radon like detector and seals and stuff. I'm like, there's different ways where radiation naturally occurs. It's just an explanation again.
Yeah. What about those? Did you guys see the pictures of like the orbs and stuff that had been released from that? I couldn't really track down if that was actually real or not. Maybe I'm just
the photo. I remember the one photograph. It looks like it's taken from inside of the tent.
Yeah.
And it's like a bright light.
That's the cool picture right there. Yeah. That's the most intriguing picture.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the heck to make of that.
It's one of those things where, was it intentionally taken? Was it accidentally taken? Was it taken during the day of the sun through the tent? Was it taken at night? I mean, we don't know. It's not like it was a digital camera or phone today where we can track that. So it's a question.
Right.
What's up with the fucking photo? But it doesn't mean they were taking pictures of the UFO that was about to beam them out of the tent.
Yeah, it's a good question. Like, even if it was a UFO out there or something like that, why would you cut through the tent and run in the cold? But unless there was
the noise that we describe on that one. That was, I think, the cool part. What was it called? The vortex something. Fuck, I don't remember the name.
Yeah. Well, really what it comes down to is, like I said, if you have a paranormal case that you think is convincing, or at least to the point where we're like, that's a good question, please send it in. I would love, or even if you want to talk about it sometime, let me know.
Sounds good. Yeah, I will definitely keep my eye out for anything else.
I know a lot more about true crime cases than paranormal cases, so I'm sure there are some that I'm not aware of.
Yeah, I think one of my dreams is to be sort of like a George Norrie type. I think I just love paranormal stuff.
Yeah, well, I've talked about Art Bell quite a bit, and that's where I get some of these cases from. Art Bell used to cover them all the time. So
right,
and I have a ton of old coast to coast shows on my drive from '93 through like 2001 or 2. So
yeah. Yeah, I love Coast to Coast. I know I've made Lance listen when we worked in an office together. We both used to listen a lot. But one of the things I was saying to Lance actually is that, you know, Coast to Coast has their niche. Like they have their audience who believes in all that stuff anyway. And you guys don't really need to back that up. Like they already have their thing. Like you guys are different, and because of the way you see things, and because you're not just gonna say, oh, you know, hey, let's talk to this the Warrens, that, you know, they might really have something going on here. Like, no, you guys are just gonna cut through that. Like leave any of that ghost speculation or any of that BS to Coast. And there's no disrespect to Coast. No. I love them. I love the show that they do. But you know, you guys, if you were to just back that up or just say, you know, oh, I think Bigfoot killed the hikers at the Dyatlov Pass, you know, you would be doing the same show essentially.
I think so. And I think we'd lose a lot of, we might gain a lot of listeners, but I think we'd lose a lot of our listeners.
That's not my angle, though.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you came up with a case and there was really some freaky stuff that was difficult to explain, that would be interesting. It's just that, you know, when we covered the Amityville case, she talks about a giant flying pig outside the window. I'm sorry, but that's not helping their case. So, but definitely, if you can think of something, send it my way. I'd love, and then who knows, you know, maybe if you've got a case you really love, you know, maybe you can come on and talk about it with us.
Sounds good. Yeah. Yeah. I'll take a look. Yeah.
That way you can be the voice of reason. Or however you want to look at it.
Yeah.
We're the one that wants to give it more respect, because apparently we're just assholes that shit all over the paranormal.
But we do give our guests a lot of talk time, so.
No. Yeah, no, you guys give it a fair shake, honestly. And you come up with likely scenarios like the Elisa Lam stuff and even the Dyatlov Pass one. It's just that's one that I've always looked at and said, oh, something really has to have happened there, and I have no fucking clue. One thing that I point at is that the Kremlin was asking people not to look into it, you know, writing sort of threatening letters, and that was kind of one thing that I pointed to, saying, oh, they know what's up over there.
They were an oppressive government, though, and their word was it. So there was no need to question the government. It's akin to questioning God.